Hey, hi everyone. So in this recording, we'll be discussing about image tag in HTML over here in order to render certain images on our screen. Okay, in the last recording, we were discussing about text formatters where we were cloning our data science Wikipedia page over there, right? And we even add one of the image on the right side of that particular page over there, right? Now let's say I want the same image on our current HTML page as well. So for that, I just created a file over here, images.html, and I'll be just proceeding. So what I will do, I will just go ahead here. Let's copy entire thing and I just paste the same thing in images.html as of now. And then we will just proceed over here. Okay, so let's save. And then in order to open the same thing on our browser, I will right click on this particular file and I will just say I want to copy the path over here. Let's just copy the path over here. And let's go to a browser and I'll just go ahead here and I'll open a new tab and I'll paste the location over here in order to get our application. Okay, in order to get our application over here. So now if you can see, we just got our data science application over here, right? So this is what we built in the last case over there. But right now, let's say I want an image on the right hand side. In order to get that, I can just go ahead here and we can have something called image tag in HTML over here. So for that, I will just go ahead here and let's say I will just come back somewhere over here. In order to get an image on our screen, or in order to render an image on a web application or on a web page, we do have a tag called as img over here. So now I can just see we have something called img and we have the emit abbreviation. So let's click on the same thing and you can see image is a self-closing tag, okay, which simply means we don't have anything to wrap in between. So the moment I just say Control S, you can see it's just getting auto closed over here. Okay, and you can also see it's highlighting me on the SRC here, and we ended with two different attributes, right? What are attributes? Attributes are something which provides some additional information to the current tag called as img over here, right? And we can see we have something called SRC and we do have something called ILT over here as an attribute. SRC here stands for a source, whereas ALT stands for alternative description. Now, what's this SRC over here? So in order to get some image, you need to have some image in your application, right? So in order to have an image, you can either go with two things. You can either host a online image or you can either host a downloaded, that's nothing but a local image as well. Okay, so and what about ALT? I'll come back to that. Let's say I want to have an image right now. Okay, so for that I just go back to my application what we're cloning here. So I want, let's say I want this particular have this particular image on my application. So I will right click here and we can see we have something called copy image address, right? I will just go and I'll just hit on that particular copy image address over here in order to get a new image over here. Okay, so now let's see what happens when I just go and paste this particular image path in a new tab over here. So I just pasted a particular URL here and let me hit on enter and we can see we just got that particular image what we were expecting over here, right? So now let's go back to editor and let's get that particular image over here as well. So what I will do here, I'll just go ahead here and let's say I want to have this particular one in our SRC application over here. So we can see we have something called SRC. So I just paste this particular one over there. And if we can see it's a online URL where we have something called .jpg extension over there. And let me save this particular one. And now if I just go back to my application over here. Okay, now let's just go back to our application here. And if I just go ahead and if I refresh here. And if I just refresh over here. So we can see we ended up with an image over here, right? We ended up with an image over here, correct? So we just got our image over here. But there was a glitch, right? Where, what was the glitch over here? The glitch was like we need to go all the time. We need to save our application and then we need to go and refresh our website over there, right? That's nothing but, let's say if I'm making a change over here. Okay, let's say if I'm making a change over here. So I will just go here and for our understanding purpose, I'll just add a one more paragraph tag. Let's say, hey, in order to understand autosave functionality. Okay, let's say autosave functionality. Okay, so now again, if you guys can see this particular one file called images.html is in a highlighted structure stating it's not been saved, right? If you can see on the top, we have a bubble like structure indicating this particular one is not yet been saved, right? How do I overcome this particular one? So for that, okay, if you don't want to go and hit on save or control S all the time, you can just go in your VS Code on the top left. We do have a file over here. Click on that and we can see we have an option called as auto save over here, right? So let's go and enable this particular one, and then now let's just come back over here. So I will just say add one more statement in stating added auto save. Okay, now you can see it's just getting auto saved, right? We are not getting that bubble like structure in front of our file name anymore, indicating it's just getting auto saved over here. Okay, that's pretty good. It's getting auto saved. We added our paragraph over here. So now let's go back to our application. Are we getting that particular paragraph anyway by chance? Nope, right? We're not getting that particular contents anywhere over here. Again, we need to go and refresh our application. Then only we can see we started getting our paragraph over here. But again, this is somewhat a glitch, right? We're expecting to go and refresh over here. Then how could it be resolved? Like, let's say I don't want to go and even refresh on my browser as well. So for that, we do have an extension over here. Okay, for that, we do have an extension over here. We have different types of extensions. I'll come back to them in a separate recording. Right now, let's just go and address about this particular current issue. So on the left hand side of your VS Code, we can see we do have an option called extensions over here, right? So please go and hit on that particular extensions and start searching with your live server. We do need a live server over here. So let's just search for live server. You can see like we do have different types of options indicating you can just go and get your live server over here. So I will just go with the very first one. We have a live server here. Let's go and install this particular one. I will just say I want to have this particular one. Okay, so it will just launch a deployment local server with reload feature for static and dynamic pages. This is what we need over there as well, right? So you can see it's getting installed right now. It also got installed. That's the reason it's showing uninstall and disable. That's totally fine. Now let's close this particular extension. So once you are done with having that particular extension called as live server, on the right bottom of your screen, you will be getting an option called as go live over here. We can see we got an option called as go live indicating click to run the live server over here. So now I can just go and hit on this particular URL. So let's just hit on that particular URL. So now we can see on the right hand side it's stating the server is started at a port 5500, right? Indicating our source live server over here. So now we can just go back to our browser over here. And if I just go ahead to the URL part over here, so we can just see we have a URL with 12700. That's nothing but a local server with the port number 5500 over here with our file name called as images.html over here, correct? So now I don't need to go and refresh my application all the time over here. So if I just go back to my browser over here, let's say we are in a browser right now and I want to add one more thing. Okay, let's say I want to show you. I will remove that auto added save option over here. Okay, let's remove all this particular functionality. Let's remove all this thing and we'll say let's have a test. So now I'm not saving anything on my VS Code as well. And at the same point of time, if I go to my browser and you can see we just got that particular expected outcome on the bottom, right? We just got let's have a test functionality, right? Without even refreshing our application. So that's the beauty of our VS Code editor. We do have different types of extensions, but for time being, we went with two different types of extensions, one with the autosave functionality and the other one with your go live server, right? That's nothing but having live server in application in order to go and render certain smooth functionalities where as a developer, we don't need to go and refresh the browser every time when we make certain changes on our application. Correct? Yeah, let's come back. So we were discussing about image tag here. So we just got an image as expected. So we understood, okay, we have something called src where we can just go and paste certain URL in order to render the image on the screen. Now let's come back to the browser. If we can see we have an image over here, right? So we have an image over here, but let's say due to some functionality, due to some issue, let's say knowingly or unknowingly there is a typo or there is some issue what's happening between the URL. Let's say we discarded these many things from our URL. So now if I just go back to my browser over here, we can see we are not getting even a hint that we do have an image on our code here, right? That's a bad practice, correct? We at least need to show our end user that we were expecting an image over here, but due to some or the other issue, we are not getting any such kind of image here. So for that, we do have a ALT attribute called as alternative description. So this will be visible on your screen only when your image is not being able to get rendered on your screen. For any sort of issue, it can be a typo, or let's say our image is not being able to configure at that particular instance, or server down or whatsoever. If your image is not able to successfully load on your browser, then this alternative description will be populated on your screen. So let's say I will just go and I will add an image over here. So for that, I'll just say an alternative description stating galaxy image. Okay, you can write anything. I'm just adding it as galaxy because this looks much more galaxy kind of thing for me. So I will just say galaxy image over here. So now if I just go to my browser and you can see we have an image over here, right? But are we seeing that galaxy image anywhere? Obviously no, right? Why? When the image is successfully loaded on your screen, we have no point to see this particular alternative description over there. Okay, but let's say if I'm removing again certain things, let's say we have an issue in the image, and if I just go back to my browser here, so we can see it's clearly stating we are having an image called as galaxy image over here, but due to some of the other issue at this particular point of time, we are not able to load that particular image on the screen, correct? So if I revert back the changes over here and if I just go back, now we can successfully see that particular image on the screen. That's the beauty of your image tag over here. Okay, we do have an src with the help of which we can just get some contents on the screen. We do have an alt attribute with the help of which we can get some alternative description for your image if the image is not able to render or get loaded on the screen. In such cases, we can get our alternative text on the screen over there, indicating that we do have a text or we do have an image where that particular image is not been rendered right now. That's the reason we're getting some alternative description over there. Okay, what are the other attributes we have for this particular image over here? We do have a width and height functionalities or attributes what could be added for your image over here. So let's say I will just go with a width over here. So I will just come over here and let's say I want a width of 650 pixels over here. So you can just go and you can directly say 650 or you can just say 650px, even that works fine. Okay, let's just say 650 and now if I just go back to my browser over here. So we can see the image size just got increased accordingly, right? But now the question comes, how exactly can I see this particular image is getting enlarged or maximized or not accordingly, right? So for that, I can just right click on my browser over here and we can go to a developers tool also called as inspect window, the last option, and then let's just hover over here. Okay, so you can see we do have different types of stuffs over here, right? On the top left in this particular inspect window, we do have a pop-up option here. So I'll just click on this thing so that it will hover that particular option over there. Okay, so now what we'll do here, 1 second. So now let's just go and load our application over. Okay, so now we can see we do have certain options over here. So I'll just refresh a quick instance over here and then we do have a pop-up window over here. So if you can see, I'm highlighting that particular one on the left hand side, which will just show that we need to go and hit on that particular button. So on hit of that particular button, we will be able to get certain expected inspected window over there. Okay, what's the expected window over here? So if I just click on this particular one and if I just hover here, see we can just go and highlight any sort of element or a tag over here. Right now I'm interested to know more about my image, so I'm hovering on the image over here and I will just click on this thing. We can see on the top left of the image we got an image abbreviations over there stating it's of 650 pixels width followed by 486 for height, and the name of the image is galaxy image and role and so on accordingly, right? Let's click on this thing and then we can see over here we got a particular image tag, right? See, we have an src, we have that alternative description where we give that image as 650 over here, and if you can see we're getting more detailed description about that particular image as well, right? Which is clearly stating we have a rendered size of 650 pixels for the width followed by height it's 487, even though we did not mention it anywhere. It's just auto scaling over here for that in order to maintain a proper aspect ratio, and we do have these other properties like indicating what is the file size and the current source and vagara stuff accordingly, correct? And in order to confirm the same thing, if you can see on the left right side of your screen, okay, that's nothing but on the left hand side we have an image. The same image is being depicted with a box model on the right hand side over here, where we can see we have a width of 650 pixels followed by 486 for your height accordingly, right? So now let's just close the inspect window. Let's go back to editor and let's say I want to give some height as well. Let's say I want to give a height of, let's say, 300. And then if I just go back to my browser over here, so we can see we just got our image as expected, right? But the image is not looking good as of now. Why? Because the aspect ratio is not been maintained over here. In order to confirm the same, I'll just go hit on the inspect window again. Let's go select this particular one in order to know which element I'm interested right now. So I want to inspect on this particular image over here. So now if we come back, See, we got 650 as a width and 300 as a height, right? But the image is not looking quite good as of now. Why? Because we are not maintaining that particular aspect ratio. So it's always recommended when you're using your image tag, you can either use a width or you can either use a height. So that if I use any one, let's say if I'm using a width, then height will be auto calculated in order to maintain the aspect ratio. Nor if I'm using only the height, okay, let's say if I'm using only height over here, then width will be auto calculated in order to maintain the aspect ratio. See, it's again maintaining the aspect ratio in order to get a good outcome on the screen. So if I inspect over here and if I just go back and if I say I want to know more about this particular element, see, it's coming with 400 for 800, 400.800 for your width, followed by 300 into your height over there. Okay, that's how the aspect ratio is being maintained in your browser over here. Okay, so it's always encouraged to use any one property or attribute. It can be width or height when you're using your image, not both at a single go over here. Okay, so right now we discussed about an online image here, right? Let's say what if I want to have an offline image here. So for that, if you want to add an offline image, you need to get that particular image on your editor over here. That's nothing but it should be present in this particular folder location called as web development, which in turn is present under a local disk E, where we have a folder called web development, and we need to have it on the same folder structure. Not necessary, you can have a different structure as well, but you need to follow certain pathing structure over there. Okay, but right now let's just go and have a local image here, because we're not sure at what time this particular image can be removed. At the same time, we're not sure how long this image will be sustained over there or in that particular site or not, right? So for that, let's say we want to have an image locally in our machine. So for that, I will just go back to my browser over here and I'll just download an image over here. So I'll just go to data science and I will just say I want to get this particular image over here. So for that, I can just go and I can just say save image as over here. So we can see here, I just got a particular image called as galaxy.jpg in my current same folder structure over here. If I open on this thing, it will just load an image over here in some time. And we can just go and use the same thing over there as well. Okay, let's say I don't want this online image as of now. So for that, I can just go and I can remove all this particular stuff. And I will just say I want to have this particular image over here. So for that, right now this image is present in the same folder where we are having an images.html file, followed by the image is also present in the same folder called as web development only. So for that, I can just directly go here and I can directly say the file name. That's nothing but galaxy.jpg over here. And then if I just save my file and if we just go back to our browser and let's go back to our application, see, we are still getting that particular image as expected on the screen over here. Correct, we're still getting that particular image as expected on our screen over here. Okay, so now let's say, but again, it's always not encouraged to have your images in the same folder over here. Rather, we always go and create a separate folder or a subfolder over here called as images, within which we always have all the images in that particular folder over here. So for that, let's say I just move this particular images to this particular, and it's asking, are you sure you want to move this particular file into images? Yes, please go and move that particular one. And now we can see this galaxy has been under images folder over here. And now if I just go back to my browser, we can see we're getting that error message stating we no longer have that particular file called galaxy.image. Correct? Why? Because it's been moved out of that particular folder location as of now. So for that, we can just go back again. And in order to get that thing, so I'll just go ahead here. I will just go with a relative path. So I just say dot followed by slash. And we can see we have a folder called images. Let's go within that. And within that, we have a file called as galaxy.jpg. And then if we just save and if I just go back to my browser over here, we can see we successfully got that image back on the screen over here, right? So that's how we can just go and get those images on the screen over here. Okay, but now the question comes, like in this particular Wikipedia called data science page over there, we are having this particular image on the right hand side over here, right? But right now we're not getting that image on the right hand side over here. So why is that so? It's because like they're having some good styles here. They're having the CSS where they're getting some contents over here. They're having a border and all those things. But right now with our plain HTML, we can't get that particular entire stuff in this particular same way over here. But still, we do have certain functionalities with the help of which we could achieve that particular image either on the right hand side or on the left hand side, where we have a property or attribute called as align over there. Okay, but right now it's been deprecated. So in HTML version 4, we used to have an align property for our image over there. With the help of that, we were able to achieve that. But still it's possible, but it's already been deprecated. I'll just show you how exactly we can use that. So I can just go and I can just say an attribute called as align over here, and then I will just say equals. Let's say I want to get it on the right hand side. So I just save it as right. Okay, and now if I just go back to my output, okay, let's go ahead here. So let's go back to a browser and then let's see how exactly we're getting our output over here. So now we can see we just got our image on the right hand side over here, right? Let's say I want to have in this particular same Wikipedia where we can see we have some contents on the left hand side and certain contents on the right hand side over here, right? So for that, let's just go ahead here and I will just say I want to get that particular same contents over here as well. Okay, that's nothing but I just want to have the same thing where I want to have certain contents on the left hand side and certain images on the right hand side over here. So for that, let's just go ahead here and I just displace my position. So that's nothing but I just go back to my editor and let's copy this image over here, and let's say I want to have it somewhere over here. Okay, let's say after yeah, let's just go ahead here and let's say immediately after this particular paragraph I want this image over here. So let's go back to a browser again in order to see how exactly the output is being rendered. And if you can see, we just got it on the certain contents on the left hand side and the image on the right hand side here, right? Let's say I want to move it still on the top over here. So for that, I can just go ahead here. Let's remove the image over here as well. And I will just have it somewhere over here. Okay, so now if we just go back to a browser again, and if you can see, we are having the contents on the left hand side and the image on the right hand side here. Similarly, you can align the image on the left hand side and the contents on the right hand side by just flipping the value from right to left in your align attributes in your image tag over here. So now let's just go back and we can see we got the image on the left hand side followed by the contents on the right hand side over here. Correct? So that's how we can just go and change our locations for our image here. Again, if we can see that align is in a red like structure indicating it's been deprecated. So when we hover on any other tag, we can see we're getting an MDN reference. That's nothing but Mozilla Developer Network reference over here. Similarly for your SRC, for ALT, height and all these things. But when hover on this particular align over here, we can see we don't have any functionalities indicating it's been deprecated. In order to achieve this, we do have a style property with the help of our CSS, and we can use a float and we can directly go and achieve something called as left or right accordingly. Again, float is not the only option. We do have many different stuff, but we can directly go and just say float right and float left accordingly. Okay, but again, let's not talk about this thing as of now. It will confuse many of you guys. We'll come back to this thing in the CSS section over here. But yeah, as of now, we can directly use align over here. So that's it for this particular images in the HTML as of now for this particular recording. So thank you all.